And we're live.
We are live.
We're live, and we are live on the LinkedIn as soon as the future arrives, because there is a bit of a delay. And we are live for our last joint office hours for a little bit.
For just a minute.
Where are you heading off to?
The world is my oyster.
The world is your oyster. Okay.
No.
So you're going to Cleveland, right?
Correct.
For a little while.
They're similar, I guess, to where we're going. No, I'm just kidding. Not at all. We have quite the journey ahead of us. Starting tomorrow, we're off to Africa. We're going to Rwanda to see the silverback gorillas amongst a bunch of nature, and then off to Nairobi.
As gorillas are, right?
Yes. I'm just actually going all the way there to go to the zoo.
They just hang around in the metro areas mostly, just walking around.
Well, that's when I lived in Australia, that's what people were like, oh, did you see kangaroos all the time? No, I lived in a city. There's not just kangaroos jumping around.
Well, that's what people do say, about California. You ever see mountain lions? And it's well, yeah, they do roam into our cities and kill things. So.
Yeah. It's that's where all the cats are going. I guess I wonder if mountain lions, do they eat cats or just dogs? Do they eat their own?
I think that they eat their own for sure. Oh yeah. Anyway, so you're gonna see the silverbacks in their natural habitat, such as it exists.
Then off to Nairobi, going to do some bush camping, and then my family's coming in for a safari, and we're going to do a safari from Nairobi into Tanzania. So hopefully we catch the Great Migration. It's
the time for that.
Yeah, I mean it's in general it's the time. The window's not super wide, so you can miss it by just a little bit, or you can be right on. So, just as we, the 8 T's of fundability, timing is key. This is the Safari Explorer timings. We'll see if we check that box.
Well, cool. Well, have a lot of great fun on your trip. We'll definitely miss you, but office hours will continue for each of the Fridays that Cameron is gone throughout August. We have a special guest booked to come in and do their best to fill Cameron's shoes. We'll announce all those, and I'll get the LinkedIn's updated. But next week it's going to be my friend Ben McDoodle. Cameron, Ben. Yeah. Awesome. So Ben, speaking of Cleveland, he's over in that neck of the woods, just country-wise, he's in that middle part. Ben, if you guys don't know Ben is an awesome guy, big startup advocate. He's been involved with 1 Million Cups for almost as long as they've been around, I think. He's one of the regional managers for 1 Million Cups. He is also involved with Techstars. He's been involved with Techstars for a long time. He's an author and podcaster and all the things all related to entrepreneurship and startups. So we're gonna have a good conversation. It's gonna be the same format. It's gonna be Ask Us Anything, but we're gonna get a completely different perspective in the house, which is gonna be fun. And then hopefully Ben will come back for another week, but we'll also be bringing in my friend Rajiv from Orlando, who's a serial entrepreneur and angel investor, and generally involved in all that stuff, and plus some other people. So keep an eye out for that. For the moment, though, we're still taking your questions. It's this Ask Us Anything format as you're used to by now. Drop your questions live in the chat. If you're watching the replay, submit your questions in advance at jdm.bio. You click the calendar button. There's a link to submit through a little Google form. And that's the grab bag that we're going to be reading from here. We always prioritize live questions. So if you're watching live, drop them in the chat. But sometimes you want to provide a little bit more information than you can in a little LinkedIn comment. So feel free to use the form in advance, even if you are joining live. Anything else before we dive in?
No, let's do it. Let's hop on in.
All right. So hopefully we got some interesting questions this time. Shall we find out?
Let's find out.
All right, we have an even 5 today.
Ooh, an
so
even
nice
5.
5.
You're gonna have to
Well,
walk me through
I suppose I mean around 5. I don't mean it's an even number.
Yeah.
It is an odd integer, but it is a round figure. 5 fingers and so forth. 5 days of the work week and that kind of thing.
You were gonna say 5 days in the week, but
I was, but I meant the part of the week that matters. So work-life balance.
Yeah. Work-life severance. You're in
Severance,
you're in your
exactly.
current you're in your innie right now.
Yeah, I have no idea what my Audi is like. My innie is crazy enough for the both of us. All right, let's do a big roll of the bingo drum. Cameron, give me a number.
4.
4. All right, we're gonna be 4, and then I am going to write down to bring in my goddamn dice, because that it seems a little bit more real. We're just gonna write this. It's just gonna say
roll the dice if it's
dice.
nice.
The dice, it's nice. Won't make us think twice.
Couscous is a rice so nice they named it twice. Just keep going on.
All right, but couscous is a noodle.
Oh, it is?
It is.
Shoot.
Yeah,
damn,
it's a pasta.
Then that saying has gone out the window now.
We're all about accuracy here at the Traction Lab.
Data, facts. All right.
I love couscous, though. All right, let's dive in. Question number 4 in the list. All right, so this is a marketplace. They used to be targeting fitness instructors, but now they're targeting dance studio owners. That's who's their actual users, I guess. Their early revenue with some pilot customers. And the question is, we've had consistent traction for a few months, but we just realized none of our users are the type we thought we were building for. Do we lean into this or stay the course? We planned our whole brand and roadmap around the fitness angle. Dance studios were supposed to be a niche, not the core.
Well, that was maybe the niche to grow into the core. So, I mean, I think like one, it's, you got some users and paying users, which is a great, I guess, piece of progress comparative to, the, I guess, fitness area that wasn't really engaging. So I think taking that data, and although that wasn't necessarily what you intentionally built for, that's where the evidence and traction is coming from. And so, again, it's proportionate in terms of like, what is your investment going forward going to be to further test out this niche, recognizing that, that wasn't your intention in launching this kind of initial business model, but that's where you're getting traction. And so as we think about it is how might you go then test that next phase of kind of building out that plan of further going to market? Like, is this just a fluke that you got some of these dance instructors to plug in, or is this something that there's truly traction, and can you get in front of them in a repeatable way and start to have some growth? Because even if that's the case, then definitely further, go down that path and try to like over engineer something for a customer base that hasn't really demonstrated any urgency and severity around actually becoming paying customers. So I wouldn't go back to the drawing board just because, or go back to this past customer because you feel like you have some sunk costs related to it. I would follow the signals that you're getting from the current paying customers.
100%, couldn't agree more. And this is also the danger of building your whole roadmap and brand without the data, right? So like, like your early revenue with pilot customers, and now it's like all that revenue isn't coming from where you thought it was, which meant that like you built out this whole roadmap and fitness angle without actually the evidence to support it. And so that's why it's really important to to go back to that like bet sizing thing and proportioning our bets to the evidence. Is we want to make sure that we're actually building for the for what the evidence is indicating that we should actually build for. So I don't really have too much to add to that. It's going to be about the data. Like if you think about big picture vision, if dance studios are a niche, does that mean that the market size is too small? Right. And so like if that's what you're trying to say here, then it's like, okay, can that be a wedge into something else, or do we need to like sit back and evaluate what we're doing here? But I wouldn't just keep pressing forward until we have some hypothesis that we're looking to test, and that's tied to some model and theory of growth. So
yep. Love it.
All right. Should we just go in order now?
Let's do it.
All right, number 5. So this is B2B SaaS. Their target is sales enablement teams at large software companies. They are also early revenue with some pilot customers. All right, we just landed a $100,000 pilot with a huge enterprise customer, but they're asking us to build stuff that isn't in our roadmap. Do we say yes to grow or hold the line? They're asking for features that are only useful for them, but it's a big check and a big logo. We're trying not to become a bespoke agency.
That's a tough one. Do you
That is
want
a
to
tough one.
Do you want to kick us off? Like, you might
So
have better insight.
I doubt it, but I'll do my best. So I do want to validate that you are asking the right question, and I like that you're asking the right question because a lot of founders don't. And then it just becomes like you work your way into what on Zero to Traction we called service as a software instead of software as a service. So kudos for asking the right question, and there's not going to be a straightforward answer. But here's how I'm going to nibble around the edges of it a little bit because it is complicated. So the first thing that comes to mind is like, what is the cost of actually developing this feature? And I don't just mean how much is it going to take in engineering hours to develop, although that is part of it. And like, what's that going to do for that? Second is what is it going to cost you in terms of your opportunities in the market? So like by adding these features, is it going to start shutting out other customers? Is it something that you could purely hide, like an integration with, some tool that they're using that's proprietary and, it's not really going to matter at the end of the day? Or is it something that's just going to get in the way for everybody who's not them? Does it involve you doing enough that it's shifting the value proposition of the tool itself? All of those things are going to be much bigger considerations than a one-off thing. But thoughts on the one-off thing. So if it's everybody wants to chase the big logos and the big dollars, and that's great. But we are looking at N of 1, right? And so your early revenue with some pilot customers, and like, I don't know how many of these you got, but judging by your reaction to the $100,000 pilot, I'm guessing the rest of them are considerably smaller than that. And so, we're having N of 1 for something. So we don't want to overinterpret even the signal that we're seeing here, which is like that one big conversion. So we don't even know if there's others like that, or if we're just chasing something else. So do we know yet how valuable that logo is going to be? Oftentimes we want the big logo, but the smaller players aren't going to convert because you have a big logo, because they know they're not like them. And so you have this big logo, which might help you get other big logos, but they're not going to help you get the smaller guys. So like, who are you trying to target? And right now you, again, have a data point of 1. And if you have the data point of 1, but you have some signals in early conversations that maybe there are other big cos that are interested in this thing, other big logos that are interested in this thing, then it's going to be, well, are they going to be different, or are they also going to want a bunch of custom stuff? In which case, you're just back to service as a software. So there's those things. The last thing that I want to say is the way you wrote this, we just landed a $100,000 pilot with a huge enterprise customer, but they're asking us to build stuff that isn't in our roadmap. So when you say landed, do you mean that you actually landed them and they signed and now they want more features? Or did they not sign and they're conditioning that pilot so you haven't actually landed it yet? Because those are two very different scenarios. If you've already landed it, I would push back against building things because it was enough to sell them. Like, they were getting value in it. And I think that there probably is some holding the line that needs to happen here within some reason. But if it's on the flip side, if these are features that are standing in the way of getting that big deal, then I would actually have, like, I'm going to fork this into 2 ways. So one is it even true? Right? Are they telling you they want these other things and then they would sign, but it's really just this to-do list to kick the can down the road, and they're never actually going to convert, and you're going to end up building a bunch of features that that nobody wants, and that you can't even sell to this one customer? Or is it actually like letter of intent style, where they're saying, hey, you add this and we're going to buy? And if that's the case, then that at least open up some additional opportunities to get them to foot the bill for those things. To maybe pre-sell those. So sell them on the core thing, and then also charge them for something that's custom for them, or at least get them to pay in advance for the software, so that you can fund the build on their dime, even if at the end of the day it works out the same for them, in terms of cost. So those are a few of the things that I'm nibbling around the edges on this, because it's a complicated question. But what comes to mind for you?
Yeah. Well, one, love all that you shared. So I would echo all of that. I think the like big thing for me is like going back to the question of like, what is the theory of your startup if you continue to go down this path? Like, how therefore does your business shift in how you see yourself actually growing? Particularly, you spoke around it in terms of the product itself, which is definitely one component of your business model, but really thinking about how, therefore, does the value proposition shift? Does your overall customer segment shift? And so, therefore, your distribution strategy, how you get in front of customers change. And so, if you go down that path, what does that future look like? And what evidence do you have around that repeatable nature of growing your startup down that path? And then the other way to look at it is if you use this as kind of a launch pad, but you still want to have your intentional strategy for going towards maybe this other type of customer segment, how does this either derail or can be leveraged to help you get to back to that theory of what your startup is? So I think overall is like tying back this data point and signal that you are getting back to then how is your theory therefore changing or being pursued going forward.
Love it.
Cool.
Well, hopefully that's helpful. And
Probably not, but if it's not, don't let us know.
No, if it yeah, hit us up if you want to follow up on that. Maybe the Traction Lab is right for you. Ask your doctor. All right, so we'll just wrap.
You didn't do any of the disclaimers, though.
There are so many.
One, we will put them in small text across the.
Exactly. It's going to come in this folded up paper insert. It's very, very long.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll wrap around. We did 4 or 5. We'll jump up to 1.
Okay.
Feel free to drop your questions in the comments, should questions ye have. All right, so this is they've got an MVP in progress. They're B2B SaaS targeting people ops teams at remote first tech companies. All right, people ops at remote first tech companies. We got a similar company last week, but they described themselves very differently. All right, we had a ton of interest from HR leaders during our interviews, but now that we have a working prototype, they're saying it feels too early to try. Did we oversell in discovery? We demoed the product with 5 people who had been really enthusiastic earlier, and all of them kind of flinched when they saw it. One even said, "Oh, you actually built it."
Ooh.
Ooh. That last part, that's nail and coffin language there.
So what's the question that they have?
The question is, we had a ton of interest from HR leaders during our interviews, but now that we have a working prototype, they're saying it feels too early to try. Did we oversell in discovery?
Yeah, I mean, that for sure sounds like in the discovering process, it didn't seem like you were really unearthing the problems and like what that urgency and severity around that problem set looks like. It sounded like a lot of potentially, and we obviously weren't in these conversations, so I have no real evidence to speak to this, but just from the way you asked.
That's the Traction Lab. We speak without evidence.
Exactly. But you better bring evidence to us. So. But, I think the key there is, were you really introducing the solution in those conversations, and how early in that conversation were you introducing it? So was it, specifically tied to, hey, here's this thing that I'm building. I want to get your feedback. Tell me would this solve your problem? And then they're kind of like, yeah, like, way to go, JDM. Like, you're building something really cool. I can't wait to see it. That would definitely solve our problem. And then you built it. And then they're like, oh, we didn't actually know you'd go do that. But we're not interested. So I think unearthing more of those pain points and asking those story-based questions to unearth all of those components, particularly around urgency and severity. And then what are they currently using now to try to solve the problem would be where I would start that conversation versus that being not your solution.
I agree with everything you said, but I do. No, there's no except. I think I would change maybe the spin on it a little bit,
Sure.
But I agree with everything that you said. The spin that I would say is I don't think that they oversold it in discovery. I actually think that that it wasn't that they oversold it in discovery. It's that they mistook enthusiasm for interest.
Mm.
So like, it wasn't that customers heard the wrong things, it was the founders heard the wrong things, I think is how
Right.
that's sort of how I would spin. I think that's what you're saying anyway.
Yeah.
I like, so that would be my spin, because here's what I think happened. And I, again, I'm speaking without much evidence here. But what I think happened was you found a problem that exists, and people were enthusiastic about finding a solution to that problem, but it lacked urgency to solve, and maybe also lacked severity, so that you got this early, like, oh wow, that'd be really cool if you solved that, and then you go and then actually put a prototype together, you show it to them, and they're like, oh, you actually you built this thing, that's interesting. And then they because they weren't really interested in the solution, right? That not that they weren't interested in having it solved, but they weren't interested in finding a solution, right? And those are two different things. We've talked a lot about what I call the slow startup suicide, which is that startups that chase high severity problems with no urgency. And so you get all of these really early positive signals from customers, but then when it comes time to get them to sign, they won't. And it's because it wasn't problem number 1, 2, or 3 on their list. It was problem number 5 or 10 on their list, and nobody devotes resources to solving problems that low on their list. So that's what I think happened here. And so I would now, you are MVP in progress. Like I'd tap the brakes on that and take a big step back and do everything that Cameron told you to do. And if find out, is there a severe and urgent pain here that you can solve? Because you might be just chasing the wrong customer or the wrong solution, or the wrong problem.
Yeah.
But you're not there yet.
Yeah. Concur.
All right, cool. Moving on.
Number two.
We got 2 more to go. Get your questions in the chat. We might have time to address them. We always have time to address. We like the in-person. We like the live ones. So drop your questions and we'll prioritize them. But otherwise we might have them.
Just like we like our startups still alive.
Still alive. Every startup, I'm very proud of this. Every startup enters the Traction Lab alive. All right, next question.
Some of them move up from Connect Labs to the cadaver floor.
Yeah, so they all started out with Connect Labs, and now they're up in the UC Davis Med School cadaver room, which we are proud of that. We're joking because it's funny to joke about, but we're really honestly, it's not the best outcome that we could hope for, but it is a really solid positive outcome when you're able to invalidate something quickly, because then you're going to stop wasting your time on it. It's not that it could have worked and it didn't because we gave up too soon. It was that there was no there, and we would have just continued wasting our time. So we consider shipping someone upstairs to the 5th floor to the cadaver room, to the morgue, to be a good thing.
Yes.
They got promoted to the morgue.
We got you there in half the time.
We got you dead in half the time. We need to work on the marketing for this. This is not going to get us any applications.
Or
we're going to see the trend line.
It's going to get the right early adopters. It's going to get the right.
Maybe so, or maybe we're about to enter the drop of sorrows.
It's a filtering process.
At least if you can't hang with us at this level, then you probably won't like the Traction Lab.
Yeah.
Okay. I just caught a little whiff of the next question. It's funny. Okay, so this is a B2C mobile app for working parents looking for productivity and habit tools. Okay, their product is live, but they are pre-revenue. And this is the part that made me laugh. We accidentally went viral on Reddit. It's a good strategy. They got 2,000 plus signups in 48 hours, and now our servers are dying. and none of the signups match our ICP. Is this a good problem or a distraction? The spike came from a meme post about ADHD tools. Some signups are mostly Gen Z, but the product was designed for millennial parents.
So I think it's interesting. I think there's probably a lot to that.
Start unpacking.
My first thought was definitely secms like a distraction for what your startup plan was, what your theory of your startup was. But if the second part of me was then if a large portion of this that went viral. I recognize that it was, tied to a meme, and but I'm wondering, since you're pre-revenue, like you've positioned it in a certain way, is there actually an interest in kind of this other type of persona? So if there's a set of like ICP within that, that might be interesting to explore. Like there obviously we're connecting with some particular pain point around, ADHD tied to productivity. And so if, in a way you could put another skin on your solution that more targets that particular audience, again, proportion your effort to the evidence that you have. But I wonder if there's a path there to have some exploratory conversations to see if there's actually some urgency and severity around that particular customer persona.
Yeah, I think subject to a caveat that I'll get to, I think I'm actually a little bit more enthusiastic about this than you are. And it could easily be wrong on this, but I think it surfaced a very interesting hypothesis that needs to be tested. Yeah. And so like here's a couple of things. Here's how I heard this. Like we stumbled into a bunch of people expressing interest in it, and their interest was sufficient to break our technology. And like that 2,000 people just doing a sign up is not likely to really like kill all your servers. So I'm guessing that there's some measure of engagement here. So like they were actually able to like get in and do something. I'm making some assumptions there, but like if that's happening there, then the end of your sentence, none of the signups match our ICP. I'm going to say, do they though? Because it sounds like you might have, you at least have an hypothesis for a new ICP, because you got this like really strong resonance with a group of people who then took interest in it.
Right.
So
I think, and that was kind of, I think my main point was like, if they're stuck on, I want to serve this population, not this population, then they wouldn't see them as their ICP, but making that shift, as you're saying as well, like I think is a really crucial component of that next step.
Totally. And I completely agree with you on the next step. I was just saying that I was just slightly more enthusiastic about the data, and like, not like I'm not going all in like this, we need a small bet to test this thing, and please fix your servers before you do it. But there is an interesting thing there. The caveat that I wanted to come back to though, is that no money has changed hands. So if you're pre-revenue, so no money's changed hands. So you got all these signups and people are interested, but is even this group, let alone the old group who you haven't, converted yet, is anybody going to pay for this thing? And so that, like, if I'm going to do another test with this new ICP, my test is probably going to be getting them to pay. Like I'm not gonna kick the can down the road. I'm gonna go straight to, can I get some money changing hands here? Right. And if not, or even if so, then it's gonna be for the other audience, can I get money to change hands there as well? And I'm gonna find the shortest possible path of seeing if we have an urgent problem with a willing buyer. And if we don't, then I'm gonna pack up and move my tent down the wagon trail to the next sleepy little town that I can maybe make a difference in. Let's give a Western metaphor at the end there.
Yeah. All right. I didn't know where you're going, but all right.
all right. Well, cool beans. So we do have another question from, I was going to say the peanut gallery, but that's not right. From the Greek chorus, I think is what I've agreed to call this. All right. So this is another AI machine learning tool. We've had a lot of those lately because I guess it's 2025. AI machine learning tool. They're targeting freelancers and indie consultants. They have an MVP in progress. All right, here we go. We just found out a big company launched a free tool that does 70% of what we do. How do we know if we should keep building, reposition, or bail? Here's the additional details. The new competitor is Google. Our tool is more focused, but we're panicking a bit. So Ted Lasso, you going to calm the panic, or are you going to put fuel on the fire?
It's a good question. I mean, I think one thing is, like, from a timing standpoint, it sounds like there is some validation there in terms of, hey, people are having this pain point and looking for solutions. Obviously, it's tough to go head to head with a giant like Google. And so I think part of it, when you're mentioning positioning, You're not going to play a brand game where you're differentiated from Google that's going to stand out. Obviously, you're going to be using their technology to potentially maybe get in front of your customers. But in terms of, thinking about it, is like, how are you serving the same exact ICP? And if so, like, is there a different way that you're creating value? And so I guess, or is there a little bit different value that you're generating, like the outcome versus it just being we're competing on this like feature set of solutions? So what I would be curious is, the question was framed around the thing versus the value that you're creating and what you're offering related to that. And so I would kind of go back to some of that, but maybe one side of that is like, yeah, there's definitely a concern because it's a big giant, but it also, they might not be able to move as quickly in deploying and certain things as you can. And so from a timing standpoint, that's an interesting thing. And, is that you might not play the big theory of this huge startup. Maybe it's something where there's a quick path to sell developing it quicker. And, you don't have like a huge exit, but a clear path to some acquisition. So that's just one idea I have, but.
Yeah, all really, really good points. A couple of things for me. So one is like, assuming that you do have some type of differentiator that can put some money behind it, like that can get people to pay, then like, I don't think it matters too much, right? And that could be because you're targeting a more affluent group, and so you're doing something that, like, you're delivering a different experience than a free Google tool. It could be that the Google tool is free, but really embedded in Google Workspace, like, so into Google Docs and Google Drive and Gmail and all that. And your tool is a bit more generic than that, and so it doesn't have that limitation. There's all of those things. Couldn't agree more on timing. That's a good signal. It doesn't have anything to do with willingness to pay, but it does indicate that other people are seeing that there's something to be done in this space, and that there's a problem there that's solvable, that people will be at least devote some resource to solving, even if that resource is only their time and their email address, and the inevitable sales of their personal data to brokers. But the other thing that I'll want to call out here is that one thing that could be pretty good is like, this is sometimes a play where you're not aiming to be the market leader, that you're aiming to be number two. Right. And so if number one is Google, you're not going to be number one. Right. But the number two player is still really, really big. And what can happen is that Google, like having a big competitor like Google, can really grease the skids. And so they can increase the size of the second, like not the market leader, but the second entrant to the market, or the follower of the market, the second largest player in the market. They can increase their second largest to larger than what their first largest would have been before, right? So if Google didn't do it and you grew, really large, you're probably not going to grow it, all things being equal, sorry to deliver this to you, you're probably not going to grow it as large as Google will. Right. And so if they can increase the pie, your slice gets bigger, even if you're still number two. And that's not necessarily wrong, but you still have to have that theory about why you can make a play as number two, particularly since you can't do this for free, because you can't make the same data plays and work in the red as long as Google can. Another advantage, Google often kills their tools. So there's some people, particularly corporate, are going to worry about staying power for anything in the Google environment, because they kill their products like eager lemmings.
There you go.
All right. Well, cool. Well, that was the end of our pre-submitted questions. The 3 office hours a week does tend to exhaust the. Oh, you know what? I didn't answer.
I didn't answer. Haven't done 3.
What?
We haven't done number 3.
That was number 3.
Wow, we really flew by.
We did. Yeah, we got the dance studio.
Time flies when you're having fun.
That's right. And at other times too. Let me see which. I'm pretty sure there was one of these that I didn't get to yesterday that I forgot to. Talk about retention, price, Gumroad. Yes. Okay. There was one left over from yesterday that I just forgot about. So, that was not bad.
Let's do it.
All right, let's have some leftovers. All right, so this is a
hate
health tech. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is a health tech, med tech startup for public school districts with limited health services.
Say it one more time. I
A
can't
health
see
tech
it, so it's hard for me
Yeah,
sometimes.
I know. A health, well, if that meant that our audience at home probably couldn't either. All right. A health tech, med tech targeting public school districts with limited health services.
Yeah.
So the districts have limited health services, and so they're hiring this this startup. Okay. We're selling into local governments and school districts, and they're all excited, but nothing is moving. How do we speed up the sales cycle or know if they're just being polite? We're in active convos with 5 districts, but every decision gets passed around. They say they love it, but no one has signed anything yet.
Yeah, it's not atypical.
It's a common story.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's part of it is like nobody's wanting to tell you no. And so they're all going to demonstrate interest because like maybe there is a pain point that you solve, but it's not urgent enough for any one of them to really push through the friction of like getting a deal pushed through in terms of this, school district or however their process of actually signing that contract. And so if there's not really this like key economic buyer who has this like urgent and severe pain point that's going to like shepherd it through the process, that can be a major barrier. And so like my recommendation is to, instead of just getting passed from one person to the next, was like who all needs to be in the room to make a decision about how to move forward or not. And if they can't articulate it, you're likely going to have this pathway of just continuing down that process. And at some point you just got to say that's not like you're going to run out of time and money, or you're just going to continue to waste time and money going down that process. And so trying to get to, I know this is going to sound like the opposite of what you want, but try to get to no as quick as possible, or at least a decision, like a firm yes or a firm no. And oftentimes that's who needs to be in the room to make this decision. And if they're not willing to do that, then that's a signal that likely there's not that urgent, severe pain point.
Totally. One big thing that comes to mind is how well do you understand the decision makers and the sales process for selling into these school districts and local governments? Are you aware who makes the decision, who controls the purse strings, who are the influencers, who are the saboteurs, like who has to give approval, right? All those different, all the different roles in that process. Do you understand how all of those work? And so is it because if you do understand how all that works and you're going through that whole process and nobody's converting, then it's probably what Cameron said. It's just like, we don't have the urgency there. Just not going to happen. Right. And so get to the no as fast as possible. When all else fails, just send a contract over for signature, right? Like that kind of move, just like get it over with, get them to say no. But aside from that, I think you have to have more conversations to figure out what does the ecosystem of the sale actually look like,
Mm-hmm.
and then within that ecosystem, like what parts are you missing? Does somebody else control the purse strings? That kind of thing. So
yeah, I don't know how this maybe exactly ties, but and maybe this is for my education as well. You've used this concept of ecosystem of pain. Can you share a little bit more about like that concept and if that would apply to such a situation, or is that in a different situation?
So it can be, yeah. So I use the ecosystem of pain in a couple of different contexts, but so in this one, like the idea is that you have there's this whole ecosystem with everybody has different motivations, right? So we see this all the time in ed tech and in health tech as well, where like you get a tool, in your case, this may be like giving a lot of help to the teachers, right? And so like it's making teachers' lives easier, but teachers aren't buying it. The school districts are buying it, and they're like, "Fuck, I care. They're doing fine," right? And so it's, it's that kind of thing.
Are they?
But are they though? Right, but not enough for the school districts to care. And we see the same thing in health tech with the really common story is something that makes nurses' lives easier or technicians' lives easier. And in that case, like the nurses and technicians aren't the ones buying it, and the higher ups, in the like chief of staff's office or in procurement are like, well, they're fine. They're getting by. Like, it's fine. Like in those cases, like your principal value proposition isn't going to resonate beyond that person because the pain is actually only experienced by them. And so what you need to do is then understand the entire ecosystem of pain. And an easy one to understand would be a hospital, right? So this may be something that makes nurses' lives easier, but in making nurses' lives easier, perhaps it decreases liability for the hospital. Because we're able to decrease nosocomial infections or maybe decrease incidence of malpractice, or there's something else there that's giving this added benefit to the hospital, or maybe it's covered, checking a regulatory box, something like that. So there's another benefit that the nurses care a lot less about. Not that, I mean, they care in their capacity as healthcare providers, but it's not like that's the principal value proposition for them wasn't that. It was how you're making their lives better and more able to do their jobs. And so, but the people above them or distant to them who are actually paying for this thing or who have to prove this thing think about it very differently. And so they're looking like, oh, this thing would also, help us save money, on the legal or compliance side or on the insurance side. So like there's another pain that they have, right? That's that pain, that either active pain or worry, right? The pain is the worry of a malpractice, more malpractice incidents or lack of compliance or legal costs or something else. So and you do that for like so once you understand that ecosystem, you understand the entire ecosystem and see who's motivated, and you're going to get some weird like perverse motivations where the arrows are like pointing the wrong way, because you might get somebody. And we see this in enterprise sales all the time, where you're selling a technology tool to a business leader, and then IT ends up sabotaging it, and not in that way, but they're providing the current alternative to that, and they get paid, like it goes to the cost center for them, right, to a part of their budget to help support that. And if you do this thing that makes that business leader's life better, that leads to a decrease in IT's budget, or it's an IT group's budget. And so they're not really motivated to help you with that. In fact, they're motivated to sabotage you. And so what is their pain? Their pain is actually not the pain of no solution, it's the pain of a solution. And so how do you deal with that? So all of those things are gonna come up, but you can only really sell to an ecosystem if you understand all of the pain that's flowing in that ecosystem, and you can understand how you're addressing that pain across the ecosystem, and so that when you're talking to certain audiences that you are communicating it in the value proposition that makes most sense to them. So if you lead with, if you're talking to the chief of staff in a hospital and you're saying, hey, we're going to make nurses' lives a little easier, that's like, it's not, they're human beings, so that like they'll care, but it's not like going to make them buy. But if you tell them like, we can decrease the incidence of malpractice in your hospital by X%, like that's gonna be like, oh wait, what, really?
Awesome, thank you.
Sure. For sure.
Well, going once, going twice. Thrice. All right. Well,
What's funny about the going once, twice, thrice is that it's on a minute delay.
Yeah. So we have to do that for a whole minute.
Once, twice,
but maybe in the whole minute here is just a couple opportunities coming your way. One is NorCal AngelCon, so applications. There is an extension on the deadline to August 15th, but I still recommend getting it in early. Always make sure that it's in there nice and safe, and you're good to go. So if you've been working towards the August 1st deadline, unless you foresee some big customer change or something like that, I would say submit it. You also could submit it, and it's always a nice thing to follow up. Hey, I really want to update this, close some big customers or whatever that might be to update the application. So get those on in. Additionally, if you're, rocking and rolling and, trying to learn entrepreneurship by actually taking tangible steps forward, we have the Startup Challenge. Registration is live. It's an amazing weekend full of action, working in teams and, trying to build a startup by actually going out there and building one and trying to get customers all in one weekend. So you can hang out with me, JDM, Laura, and Arlene for a full weekend of startups and gaining traction with customers. What else is going on out there?
We got the Traction Lab.
We got applications live and rolling for the Traction Lab. So do submit those. We bring in companies on a rolling basis. So JDM will be leading the charge in the August month as I find myself in the Safari. But nonetheless, we'll also be building an additional forum set come the September timeframe as well. So do apply, get those in. We want to dig in and help you apply traction science to your venture. So I don't know if there's anything on else. Go ahead.
I'll just say also, I mean, the Traction Lab is principally for, companies at the pre-seed and seed stages, again, the next major milestone, but we do have a new offering to help out those who are either outside of our region or who are a little earlier or maybe not working on a highly scalable startup. We do have a new offering we'll be announcing soon called the Traction Lab Academy. That's all the same stuff, just packaged in a way that lets us do that at a bit more of a scale. So there's like you can get some one-on-one help, but there's also live events like Small Office, so that we can be answering your questions on a Zoom call together. And then there's an online course to walk you through how to do some of the traction stuff, how to actually run your own experiments, and then we'll help reviewing those experiments and doing all of those things that we are wont to do. So if that's of interest to you, just hit me up. So just send me a DM.
DM to JDM.
A DM to JDM.
There you go.
All right. Well, cool. That'll take us to the end of our time here. Thanks everyone for watching live and submitting your questions in advance. Keep those questions coming. Love you guys' questions. Got a couple of interesting curveballs. So those are fun too, but don't be afraid to ask a boring, simple question. We're not going to think that you're dumb. There's a time in the history of everyone's expertise, a time when they weren't an expert. So, whatever questions you've got, we will provide our traction science hat too. Happy to help you out. No question is too dumb. So let's get those questions. Just go to jdm.bio. You'll find a link there and throw those questions our way. And with that, I will be back next week with our special guest, Ben McDougall. But Cameron will be, I don't know, big game hunting, something like that.
No. Spotting them. I'll be spotting them.
Hopefully the Great Migration with his gun safely stored away and not pointed at these poor defenseless creatures. No, I'm just kidding. Cameron will be off having some great fun. Hope you and Katie have an amazing time with the gorillas and on safari, and I can't wait to hear about it and see the photos.
Yeah, we'll be testing our photography skills, so we look forward to it, and I'll be sure to share.
Yeah, definitely do. And with some weird coincidence, my parents will be in Africa at the same time. They leave on Monday. You leave today. So you guys might cross paths at some point. I know they're going to see the gorillas somewhere too.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, maybe I will run into them. And, thanks for another session. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to tune in over the next month and beyond. And, also, keep an eye out. Zero to Traction coming live to you on Saturday as always as well. So if you want some more traction, startup, all that stuff, we got it coming for you.